we're going to talk about long-term future with Milwaukee. That's going to be that time. I'm going to be in that moment. Obviously, I had a great meeting with the owners, talked about the team, talked about what went wrong, what can we improve. As long as everybody's on the same page and as long as everybody is fighting for the same thing, not fighting every single day, which is to be a champion, I don't see, why not be in Milwaukee for the next 15 years.
As long as, keywords there, obviously a disappointing end to the season for Giannis, but let's not forget his incredible regular season. He becomes just the third player all time to win both the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year in the same season, and the first since Hakeem Olajuwon did it in 93-94. The only other player to do it, Michael Jordan, 87-88. Talk about all-time great company, Kevin.
Curious to see how that guy on the right side comes out to play after the MVP was announced and it went to Giannis. Yeah, let's go over the Western Conference Finals. The biggest storylines ahead of tonight's Game 1. LeBron and Jokic, both of the Lakers series have played out in similar fashion. They lost Game 1 to both the Blazers and Rockets before winning the next 4 games of each series. Both of Denver's series, well, they had similar looks. They were down 3-1. And they came back to beat both the Jazz and Clippers. Denver in its first conference finals since 2009, according to Caesars by William Hill. The Lakers are heavy favorites. The Nuggets series win would be the second largest upset in conference finals history. Well, make that in the last 30 seasons. Time for big game sound. You got it.
It takes a lot of energy, effort, and a lot of desperation to be able to come back from a 3-1 deficit, and they did it twice. So the respect level is out of this world for what we have for this ball club.
Well, we actually did petition the league to see if we could just get right to it and start the 3-1 down, save everybody a lot of time and catch up to the Eastern Conference.
We kind of surprised Clippers and probably didn't want to do it, didn't want to make that happen to them.
The confidence that they're playing with, the chip on their shoulder that they're playing with was really noticeable. Obviously, they're a very resilient group.
To do what they've done in this playoffs, coming back from 3-1 in both their series is phenomenal and something that we've never seen before. So they have a lot of confidence right now, and it's going to be a tough matchup for us.
Malika Andrews and Dave McMenamin join us now from the bubble inside Orlando. Malika, we just heard Mike Malone, head coach of the Nuggets, talk about it, that they play their best basketball when his team is with their backs against the wall, down 3-1. What does Malone want to see from them tonight as this series starts with Game 1?
He just wants to see a high level of intensity, Kevin. What he told me yesterday is that they have a choice here. His guys can choose to be satisfied with the fact that they made it to the Western Conference Finals for the second time in franchise history, or they can choose to say, you know what, the job isn't done, and that's how we're going to come out. Michael Porter Jr. said that he knows that last series against the Clippers, Game 1 was a struggle for them, and part of it might have been tired legs. Another part of it just might have been that the fact that they had their head still in the previous first round series. But this time they've had a full day off to recuperate. Then they had a full day to go over film, to go over schemes, to prepare for the Lakers. And Nikola Jokic said, you know what? We still feel like we're being overlooked. We know all of the odds are stacked against us. But since we have come back now from 3-1 deficits 2 times, they are no longer going to take us and this series for granted.
Confidence riding high right now with the Nuggets. Let's go to the Lakers side. Dave, we heard LeBron mention his respect for this team. What else can you tell us about James' mindset going into this series?
Yeah, Kevin, I checked in with the source close to LeBron this afternoon, and it's funny that Malika used the terminology not take it for granted because the source said the exact same thing in terms of how LeBron's viewing the Lakers being in the Western Conference Finals. The source told me that LeBron is not looking ahead. He's not taking it for granted. He recognizes just how hard it is to get to the conference finals. Even though he's done it so many times in his career, it can be fleeting. And obviously he was reminded by that last year, not making the playoffs for the first time since his second year in the league. He said he's intensely focused, still finding some time to relax, but he's focused. And tonight, think about it. 10 days ago, LeBron might have had his best game in the playoffs. It happened to coincide with the day that the Bucks were ousted from the playoffs. He had 36 points on 23 shots. Today, he finds out the news. He gets second place in MVP for the 4th time in his career. I think you could see another big night from him with that extra motivation.
Oh, yeah. Good luck, Denver. By the way, the Lakers held a 3-1 advantage in the regular season, and that one loss came when LeBron wasn't playing. Malika, Dave, thank you so much. Ryan? Following another collapse against the Heat. It's a developing story we're following late in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Heat. Jimmy Butler's steal of a Marcus Smart inbounds pass led to a layup for a 7-point Miami lead. It was one of 20 turnovers for Boston as they lost by 5. Afterwards, Smart was overheard in the locker room yelling at his teammates over the loss. According to Stephen A. Smith, one part of the argument surrounded Smart's shot selection in the fourth quarter. The team could not escape what was heard and the questions that followed.
What happened in the locker room? You heard Marcus Smart screaming, come out, swearing, talking about things being thrown. Can you just walk us through what happened there?
Guys were emotional after a hard game, hard loss.
We 0-2. We frustrated. But, that's team sports. You're not supposed to be happy we down 0-2. But nothing out the ordinary. Just talking about the game. It's cool. Gotta get ready for the next one.
A lot of emotions is flying around. Obviously, we feel like we could have won, should have won, and we didn't. So just a lot of emotions flying around. That's it.
As for more details, Adrian Wojnarowski tweeting out ESPN sources. Brad Stevens had a late-night Thursday meeting with the Celtics leaders, that is Kemba, Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart, to work through emotions of the post-game 2 locker room. A lot of yelling in the locker room, but nothing escalated to a physical confrontation. And Woj is joining us alongside NBA champion Richard Jefferson, live from inside that bubble in Orlando. Woj, what more can you tell us about this meeting late last night?
Kevin, Brad Stevens and the leaders of this Celtic team, Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and, of course, Marcus Smart, just trying to get the guys together and get them talking. And a lot of the focus, I was told, of Marcus Smart's frustration in the postgame that spilled out after that Game 2 loss was, built around the loss of that 20-point lead, the turnovers. What he had felt was a lack of urgency around the team, especially at the defensive end, to let that Game 2 slip away. And that's what they talked about in the meeting with Brad Stevens. They've got very good leadership on this Celtic team. And listen, after 3 months in the bubble and in a series where, they know they let one slip away, it is not surprising that things could get that emotional. And one other thing I'm told the Celtics were talking about, the very possibility and perhaps even likelihood that they'll get Gordon Hayward back Saturday night for Game 3, and to make sure that they're all on the same page to integrate Gordon Hayward back in here in a game that is obviously a must-win for the Celtics and trying to get to the NBA Finals.
That is the news that's coming in today. He's upgraded to questionable. That is Hayward for Game 3. RJ, let's bring you in. 17 seasons in the league. You've seen some things. We have seen outbursts before, but how can this outburst impact the team during a playoff run?
Well, this is the funny thing about when you look at the Boston Celtics. This didn't start over these last 2 games. They didn't really finish out the Toronto Raptors the proper way. So they've lost 3 of their last 4 games. So this tension wasn't just building from last night's performance or the game before. It's been building for a while right now. They're not playing the type of basketball that they need to win a championship. And so that's what the discussions were about. And you know this. Everyone's going to get fired up. And I guarantee you there is 100% thing that is true, that these teams are going to have more of these quote-unquote incidences, whether it's personal meetings with coaches, whether it's fired-up video sessions. You're fighting for your basketball lives, so there's going to be a level of intensity that probably most people aren't used to.
Yeah, and to Woj's point, there's a uniqueness here, too. You've been inside a bubble for 3 months. You don't get the chance to go home and release some of that energy. You got to stay back in the hotel, and you see your team once again. Game 3 tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern on ESPN. Woj, RJ, thank you so much.